Hello, everyone, and welcome to our awesome webinar today, The Future of Software Delivery 2026. Now, I know it might sound bombastic trying to profit what's coming through 2026, but we kind of assume where this is heading and we see the trends. And today in my session, we will discuss kind of what are the shifting that we currently see in the industry. Today we have awesome webinar with other amazing subjects, so you better stay with us and listen to everything because it's super interesting. A little bit of housekeeping. If you have any problem or any questions, please feel free to drop it right here in the chat. All right, so let me share my screen. It's right here. Okay. All right, cool. Nice. Okay, so before we even start, I want to talk about how AI has completely changed the rules of coding. But this is only the beginning because the real disruption is not coming necessarily from the code, but from how we deliver software. So as we see today, nothing will look the same. And let's first talk about the coding transformation because it also changed software delivery, and the software supply chain is moving to the hands of the developer. I mean, this is largely assisted by the growth of agentic development environments, as you can see here. We have Copilot and Amazon Q and Cursor, Windsurf, Cloud Code, of course. I mean, everyone is using even several tools for different purposes. So we see that the adoption of these agentic IDE is becoming largely. So these kind of tools accelerate the process of coding, and not necessarily that we control this process anymore, or at least we are less involved in this process. And it's not only about the experience, but also about the capabilities of AI that keeps improving. I mean, Swebench is kind of a mark that we give to these models of how they solve complicated tasks. And we see that it started with like 4% of coding problem. By 2024, it's 71%. And in 2025, by the way, this is not up to date anymore because, as you can see here, in 2025, it says 74.9. But in fact, the latest Gemini Pro and Claude Opus models reach to 80%. So we see the evolvement and we see where it's going. So tests are too easy and we need to make them a lot more strict. And we see that the bar just pushed higher. I mean, it can solve anything you will give him. And with the time, not far from now, I have no doubt it will get closer to 100%. Of course, it's difficult with the time, but it will definitely make it there. So another reason, by the way, why coding is flying so fast is that we have agents as part of the team. And it's already happening. It's not just, in my mind. It's we see Goldman Sachs adding a Devin, the autonomous coder, to its 12K developers. I mean, it's part of the team. And by the way, Google also said that third of the code actually written by AI agents. So now we have to remember, AI agents, they don't sleep. They don't get tired. They don't need, to go and drink something or I don't know. They just generate code and they upgrade your dependencies. They trigger different workflow. They produce builds. They release versions. So while you are in meeting or you just went to lunch, they keep work. They keep push code, delete code, adding new codes, and you do other stuff which is important for your job. So human can no longer manually verify every change that these agents doing. So we understand that the governance must be automated at the binary level as well. It's if we automated the code, we have to automate the binary level as well. Now, let's simulate a normal day in 2025. A dependency updates automatically, an agent submit a pull request, CI merge it, and then a new binary is generated. We analyze it, we run security scans, and in the meantime, another agent patches an issue, another build, another binary. Now multiply this by 50 pipelines and then ask yourself, can you trace every build? And if the answer is no, then you might be gambling with your product. I know it sounds frightening, but this is the truth. Because we are entering a phase where an explosion of software release is coming. This will completely change the way software delivery is managed. So we will do software delivery what actually coding agents have done to coding. And it's not only a question of are we prepared for this change, but do we have the right tools to support this? And here's the uncomfortable truth. Your repositories today contain code you didn't write. Model assistants, CI automation, dependency updaters, they all contribute. And with MCP, which connects you to even different other systems, and Cursor and Copilot and agentic CI/CD, the volume is exploding. And this means controls need to move from who wrote the code to what binary actually contains these changes. And where we have all these new threat actors actually thrive, because they understand that there is chaos over there, and they can pinpoint the weakest link where they can enter these points and do some bad stuff. And as said, until recently, we believe that code was kind of the centers of everything: Git, commits, pull request, and that's where value was created. But there is a problem, because while everyone is obsessed with source code, and I'm not saying that source code is not important, it is important, but the actual thing you ship, the binary, has become the real product, and it changes hundreds of times a day. So you have to make sure you control this outcome. But as everything moves so fast, that traditional questions are becoming harder to answer. What make up a release? How do I give it a version? How do I track it? How do I relate it to build and source? So if you still govern only source code, you're essentially probably guarding the wrong door. And a binary is eventually the result of hundreds of transformation, compilers, packages, signing, scanning, transitive dependencies, build metadata, environment variables, build agents, ephemeral runners. Every small detail influences the final product. So you have to govern your binaries. You wouldn't trust a car engine where you can't trace how it was manufactured. And yet, most companies ship binaries they cannot even reproduce. And the meaning is that this release need a home, a system of record to keep them. One that works well with agentic release manager, so you can easily govern every bit and every byte of your releases. And finally, I didn't mention, but we have the beta waitlist of Fly is now open. And Fly is an agentic universal repository manager that allows you just, ask questions like, where did we push that fix with the blue button? And because Fly is fully connected to your Git, your VCS, and fully govern your binaries, it knows to answer these questions and give you a specific version for a specific change that you have done with your code or binaries. All right. So it was quick, and I promise it was quick because we have other interesting stuff to hear today. So I want to say thank you. Thank you for listening to me. And now I want to give the stage to Ronnie Belenitsky, who will speak about uptrust and how you actually instill trust with your application and your product with these, all fast phase transformation that we are experiencing now. So, Ronnie, the stage is yours.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. First of all, I want to thank Jonathan for doing a great demo. Thank you very much. I'm humbled to be after Jonathan, hoping to live up to the to these dreams. So hi, everyone. I'm Ronnie. I'm the director of product and leading the product for DevGovOps. And today we are gonna learn and talk about what is DevGovOps, what does it include, and I think maybe the most important stuff is trust. Eventually, right now, in software supply chain, trust is not just a feeling. It's a technical requirement. This is something that companies require more and more from us. Customers require from their vendors to know exactly what's happening within their software supply chain. For years, we treated trust as the final gate, but no longer. Okay, it doesn't work anymore. It's much more than that. It is evolved. And today we're going to discuss and talk how JFrog will help you to make it much faster for your organization. Let's start. So first of all, let's talk about the three powerful forces that are working right now within our world. The first one is velocity versus risk. So I'm sure you know that in nowadays, the demand for speed and the velocity of the development has increased dramatically. Okay. And we are required to deliver much more in a much shorter time, which at the end expands the attack surface to different attackers that want to harm our software supply chain. The second thing is the fact that we have an increase of 300% in software supply chain attacks as attackers shift focus from the not only production to the whole software supply chain and shifting left as much as possible and coming to harm our pipelines. And the third thing is that we are seeing more and more regulations coming and being created within different countries, different regulations, different industries, and each one is becoming more and more regulated and more takes time for us to actually understand what it means and how do we comply for that. So these are the three main pillars that are now working within our industry. Now, from the organization perspective, we have a lot of impact, okay? From security, we need to ensure that every component is safe, okay? We have a lot of components. Our software supply chain is bigger and bigger from day to day. From DevOps perspective, we need to ship fast and we need to innovate, okay? Companies are expecting us to bring much more. And from GRC perspective, we need to make sure that everything is auditable, that we have the full documentation for everything, and everything at the end will be fully compliant to the regulations that we need to meet. Now, in reality, all of that is all good and nice. However, the reality doesn't always meet the theory, and we have a huge gap here between each other. Now, let me move back to the next one. Oh, sorry. Okay. Now, let me start with just explaining what is the DevGovOps domain that I'm talking about. So DevGovOps basically is a new framework that integrates all of the three main pillars that we just talked about. It's the governance, which is security, quality, dev, etc. All of it we want to govern. It's the risk that is totally calculated at the end and aggregated on the level of the organization, and compliance. And all of that is being directly combined with the DevOps lifecycle and security practices. Now, the result at the end is that the software supply chain will be compliant and the delivery will be without any kind of trade-offs. Now, the main three key points here are having automation over manual work. Second, continuous compliance. Let me just explain this one maybe. Continuous compliance meaning that we are not just checking what we deliver once in a year or twice a year with audits of people, auditors that are coming to our company and actually, checking one by one. But we are always making sure that anything that we deliver will be fully compliant to regulations that we need. And unified transparency. We give all of the different stakeholders, both DevOps, release manager, developers, GRC, security, everybody, a single source of truth, providing all of the evidence they need to make sure that we are delivering trusted software. Now, I want to talk about the first product from the JFrog house that will deliver the promise on that. And that is AppTrust. Now, what is AppTrust? Basically, it's a new solution by JFrog to ensure DevGovOps. It bridges the gap between developers and security, quality, and GRC people, allowing you to trust the software that you deploy and making sure that everything is not only trusted, it's also compliant to exactly to the regulations your company and your project actually needs to meet. All relying on evidence-based controls and governance, which we'll talk in a minute on what exactly does that mean. Moving on. So what are the four main pillars that consist out of AppTrust is consisted out of, okay? So the first is evidence-based policies and unified policy engine. Now, what does that mean? It means that AppTrust allows you to sort and set specific policies that are all being managed by the evidence that you are collecting throughout your SDLC process. And it can be from different kind of levels. It can be on the application level, it can be on the project level or organization level, and all in one place. Second, we are giving you the visibility from code to production, having all of the connections from something the Docker that is running right now in your production cluster up until the commits in code that actually built. Third, having the control gates themselves throughout the SDLC process, not only at the end, but shifting left as much as possible in order to warn in ahead everybody that are participating within the SDLC to make sure that you are compliant with the regulations of your company. And fourth, obviously natively integrated cross-platform within the JFrog, working closely with all of our security tools, ML tools, Artifactory, and others in order to bring you one holistic solution. Now, one of the most important stuff here that I mentioned is, of course, the evidence collection. Now, first of all, what is an evidence? Evidence is the proof that something happened in a specific moment in time. Now, evidence collection isn't a new product for JFrog. That was announced in GA about a year ago. But I'll give you a quick overview just to make sure that we're all aligned. So JFrog allows you to collect evidence throughout the process, and it allows you to actually connect the evidence to any subject within the JFrog platform. It can be an artifact, a package, a build, a version, an application, whatever you want in order to actually attest that something happened in a specific moment in time. For example, does the code meet the quality standards? In this case, we can actually run a scanning tool that will do the code quality, and the report that is coming from that tool will create an evidence at that moment and will be attached, for example, in this case, to the build object within JFrog, and we'll say that this build and everything that was built from it was tested and here is a signed proof. Same here can be with security scans, etc. So this is just to make sure this is our evidence collection route that allows you to always establish trust with the JFrog evidence collection service. Now, moving on, how is trust achieved? So we have a couple of things here. First of all, we need to understand the context. Up until now, within JFrog, we didn't have actually specifically have a business context. Now we are talking about clear application entity and overview of having the context of the application within JFrog. This is the connection between the business context and JFrog objects. Second, having evidence-based policies acting as strategic gates throughout the whole SDLC. You control your SDLC, you control the gates, you decide whenever you want to block something or just warn something, and eventually you control the SDLC progress. Application versions, which is a specific version of the application that comply with defined policies and marked as trusted. Eventually, after a specific version, went through the whole SDLC and went through the whole gates, it will be marked as a trusted release that you can trust. We'll go into deep dive in a few minutes. And after the release was already released and it's marked as trusted, you need to continue and monitor for new CVEs, new vulnerabilities that sometimes occur, and make sure that you are still having a trusted release for continued trust. So these are the four main pillars in order to make sure that you have achieved actual trust from end to end. Now let's deep dive into each one of these parts. So first of all, the application entity. As I said, this is something that is very important in order to actually structure the context. To have the context and the connection between the business and the software development lifecycle. So here we are creating this application entity, which automatically assigns any kind of software resource that was created by the team to the application. It defines the ownership, which is critical to understand later on if we have had any kind of issues, what's going on, what's happening, etc. And we can also track SLAs, velocity, risk, and everything can be done on the application level. Next, we have the evidence-based policies. Okay, as I said, we have every software lifecycle stage can be gated, so you can create gates on any stage you want, entry gate, exit gate, etc. You can create any kind of policies on any kind of evidence that you have created or stored along your way. You can also check for that and make sure that eventually any application version that successfully passes all of the gates, it has the stamp that proof that the policies have been met. Now, to make your life much, much easier and make sure that you collect all of the evidence that you need, we have started here a very nice and big partner program where we are partnering with a lot of different vendors from the leading vendors of each of the different domains that are here on the screen, which we're proud to have already live GA right now as part of the App Trust offering. Now, this is just the first wave, and we're going to continue and create more and more partnerships like that, according to different feedbacks that are coming from our customers. But this is the first wave in order to make sure that it's very easy for our customers to start working, collecting evidence, and creating the governance and policies on top of them. Now, post-release monitoring. As I said, after the application version was already trusted and is now being released into production and to the runtime clusters, App Trust will monitor and alert if any kind of new CVEs will be found after the release was done, allowing the customers to make sure that they can sleep tight at night, and that App Trust is following and monitoring any kind of releases that are now in production. And if something happens, it will have an alert and will make sure that you know who brought the CV into your release, what happened, and what do you need to fix. All of that leveraging JFrog's contextual analysis and application capability within our JFrog security platform. to actually reduce the CV noise and actually make sure that you are acting only on the applicable issues that you have. Now, let's take a look at a quick demo and then sum things up. So let me just show you, let me just 1 second, moving to a different screen. So here we have right now, as you can notice, under the navigation bar, we have a new first-class citizen, which is called AppTrust. Within AppTrust, we have applications. In my specific example, I have one application, which is BTC Bitcoin Wallet app. Okay, now I can see here that the owner is, in this case, is Tal Proj Admin, who is a specific user within the JFrog platform, and it has also different labels. The business criticality of this application is high. This is one of the different metadata that we are saving on the application level in order to make sure that you know what exactly this application does and create different policies on top of that. Now, once I'm going into the application details, first we are seeing different insights. So these are the details. Here we can see also the post-release. So great news, we don't have any kind of CVs right now in releases that are in production. But what I want to actually show you, the most important stuff, is the lifecycle right now. So this is the lifecycle that I've created or customized for this specific project. This project has 4 different stages, okay? And each stage corresponds to different kind of maturity level of the versions inside of it, okay? Now, each project can have a completely different lifecycle. It's fully up to you and can be customized according to your needs. In this case, you can see that I have a dev, QA, prep prod, and production, which is the final release stage for now. You can see here also the different gates that I've configured here within my SDLC. For example, in order to leave the dev stage and go forward to the QA stage, you need to meet these exit policies, which in this case are 3 different policies. 2 of them are giving you a warning if you're not meeting them, and 1 of them will fail you if you don't meet it. The fail one, for example, is if you do not have a GitHub Salsa provenance evidence, this will fail your promotion. But if you have, for example, critical CVs between 9 and 10, this will give you a warning saying, heads up for the developer, know this, right now you can move on, but later on during the SDLC, you will be failed. So please fix all of these issues. Now, this is coming to show and explain how we are also doing shift left and trying not to block the productivity of the developers and allowing them to progress, and in parallel, letting them know that something will be blocked later on if they do not change anything. Okay, obviously I'm here as a project admin, so I can also create new policies. Okay, this is, for example, the entry gate for the QA, etc. Now here inside, I'm having my versions. I can see a very clear view of what's going on, which version do I have, what happened to them, if something failed, or if we have a warning, etc. And at the end, at the production stage, we can see this. These are all the releases that went all the way until the prod stage and got released. And you can see here this green icon, meaning this is a trusted release, meaning this is a release that went through the whole gates, all of the policies, and passed with success. Now, if I'll take a look specifically into one version, for example, first of all, obviously, you have the full timeline of what happened with this version, what happened if something had some kind of an issue, and then it was fixed, etc., etc. You have the full content of this version, what exactly it includes. In this case, it has 3 Docker packages and 1 Maven, okay? And you have the full picture. Now, one of the most important stuff is the content graph, which eventually shows you what kind of evidence were collected throughout the whole process, throughout the whole SDLC of that specific version. So as you can see here, we have the application itself. Sorry, my bad. The application itself, the application version, as you can see, BTC Wallet app version number 11, which was consisted out of 1, 2, and 3 builds. Okay, and each build brought its own packages. You see here, this is the AI Translate Docker, the Maven, another Docker, and another Docker. Now, on these 3 levels, so you can see here the package, the build, and application version, you can see different evidence that were collected throughout the whole process. For example, this Docker came with these 2 different evidences. One is coming from Jira, and one coming from GitHub, which is the Salsa provenance, making sure that once this Docker was built within GitHub Actions, is GitHub can actually attest that it went through the right processes. And here you have all of the information that was supplied and was created by GitHub. This evidence not only was created by GitHub, it was also signed by GitHub and can be verified by GitHub, which is the most important stuff. Now, this is the markdown, okay, which is a more human readable way. And of course, you have the full stack in JSON here as well. You can download, you can query for that. Obviously, it's signed, and you can use that whenever you want. We have a lot of different examples. This is the Jira, meaning that what Jira ticket was opened in order to document the requirements for this change that was created here. And you have here all of the details of the Jira with the link to the actual ticket that opened. And our commit that built this Docker is related to this ticket. Okay, so have that as well. We have a lot of different. This is, for example, Sonar evidence, which is also our partners, JUnit, etc., etc. Now, after we created this version, we can see here that we also have a lot of different evidence that were created by AppTrust. Every time that we are actually promoting the version and it passes through specific gates and policies, we can actually see here an evidence that actually says, okay, in this example, this is application release certification, meaning that it went through the last stage of the release. We know the application, the version, the project, etc. And we know exactly all of the different policies that it went through before it was successfully published to production, which is very critical to know afterwards, as the auditor will come and tell you, okay, I want to know exactly what passed, what kind of policies did you have at that moment in time, because policies can change, obviously, as time goes by. Here as well, we have another integration that is being demonstrated here, which is the ServiceNow approval. We are also integrating here between AppTrust and ServiceNow. We're actually having the final approval coming from a separation of duties that the DevOps and developers are creating the release, managing the whole SDLC, but before finally releasing it to production, some organizations need to have an approval coming from a ServiceNow, from a user in ServiceNow, some kind of a manager. So this is here, we have that as well. That's a whole integration that is built by JFrog and ServiceNow together. And for more details about that, please let us know and come to us afterwards, because that's a big topic for itself, okay, with the link for the change request, etc. Now, if I'll go back, so here we have the full life cycle of that application. We have the full activity log, obviously, what happened with this application. We have the evaluations, of course, what happened every time that we have evaluation of a specific gate. We have all of the summaries here, obviously. And of course, here we can also create our own policies. It can be on the organization level, on the project level, on a specific application, or even having policies on labels, on specific labels of application. Meaning, for example, we can create a label saying, this is an external facing application, for example, and we can have much more strict policies for these kind of external applications, for example, okay? Now, obviously, we also support policies code, so giving our customers the ability to create their own custom rules and create their own policies as policies code based on Rego and open policy engine agent. All of that is fully supported by AppTrust as well. If you want more information, please feel free to reach out afterwards. This is for now the demo. Let's move on and close the session. So what I want you to remember from this session, basically, we are moving from silos to trust. Now, let me share a couple of 3 pillars on how we do it, and afterwards, feel free to reach out. So up until now, we had 3 silo teams. We have the DevOps, we have the security, and we have the GRC that all were working separately and didn't talk with each other up until the moment where they actually needed and were meeting together in audits or some kind of a checkups. And then they had the issue of understanding what's going on and wasting a lot of time. Now, the DevGovOps way is that it's all integrated into one software, in one place, which gives the solution for all 3 personas. Up until now, we had manual checkpoints. We had to manually check and make sure that we trust whatever release we're getting. and actually doing these kind of manual approvals or trusting someone or something that it will be okay. Now we do not have to do that anymore. We are now allowing you, our dear customers, to have a continuous and automated governance and control over your software supply chain. And last but not least, we had the speed versus risk. We had always to balance between how fast do we want to move, but on the other hand, how risky we want to have. If we want to move fast, then we'll have a lot of risk. But if we'll move slow, we'll have less risk. Now we do not have to compromise. We can go fast and also lower the risk by having app trust to actually govern and make sure that everything will go according to the plan and according to the checkpoints that our organization and the security officer within our company will actually decide. So we'll have the rapid but compliant without any kind of trade-offs. That's it from me. Thank you very much for having me. And now let me just pass the wand into the one and only, the VP product of JFrog ML, Ran Romano. Thank you, guys.
Hey everyone, and thanks, Ronnie. I'm Ran Romano, the VP of Product and Engineering at JFrog ML, and today I'm going to talk about securing AI and DevOps, and more specifically, how to bring your models, MCPs, and hidden danger of shadow AI under control. Please feel free to write your questions in the chat during the session. Let's start. So exactly 2 years ago, actually at SwampUp at our user conference 2023, our CTO showed statistics from Gartner that at the time felt, this for me, completely over the top. Over that by 2027, over 90% of new applications will include machine learning models in them. Now, who dares to be so confident to predict something about 2027 with the number of over 90%? Fortunately, the universe is playing along. Look at the rate of adoption today, obviously driven by generative AI, by the comeback explosion of generative AI. Now the statistics feels almost underwhelming. And the model is, in many ways, simply the new artifact, a whole component with dependencies, with the security risks, and governance issues of its own. And for those of you who are new to our vision, let me quickly share the JFrog ML AI solution and how the JFrog ML AI solutions and how they are implemented as part of the broader JFrog platform. So at the top, we have our end-to-end security solution, starting with JFrog Curation that allows you to block malicious models at the gate. Then we have X-ray and advanced security that allow for model scanning, code and package scanning, and model license compliance. And last but not least, JFrog Runtime, which extends the software supply chain security into the runtime environment. On the bottom, we have the JFrog Artifactory, the beating heart and soul of the JFrog platform, where you can store your machine learning models, Python files, data sets, and use a Hugging Face proxy. And in the middle, we have JFrog ML. It allows you to discover, build, deploy, maintain, and monitor machine learning models and feature sets in production with minimal engineering efforts. So the technology is there. The adoption is through the roof, obviously, and this investment is also following suit. But we are seeing warning signs. The rapid acceleration has simply outpaced our traditional methods of governance and security. And for real enterprise adoption, the challenge isn't the technology anymore. It's actually the management, the governance model. And the data is incredible. 92% of the companies say they plan to invest more in generative AI over the next 3 years. But only 1% of the companies believe that in some way the investment has reached maturity. And why this disconnect? Because scaling AI from a pilot project to an enterprise-grade production systems is where our traditional governance models fail. And the consequence of this lack of control is visible. Here you can see the rise of AI incidents, of reported AI incidents. And what are these? These are security breaches, bias failures, and intellectual property leaks being tracked across the industry. Okay? These are real-world attacks and failures hitting production environments, proving that the security surface area has simply exploded. And at JFrog, we pride ourselves with being great listeners. And this is what our customers are telling us. There's no standardized way to manage models across teams. Everything feels so manual, so disconnected. We can't allow models into production unless we trust their origin, security, and development process. We had to block external model hubs like Hugging Face, simply completely block Hugging Face in order to reduce security risks. And we lack the ability, we're flying blind. We aren't even scanning the models, simplest way of scanning the models that we're using. So we're traveling at light speed. But for most enterprises, there are 4 glaring red lights stopping the train from moving forward and scaling safely. First, pace of innovation. The model ecosystem, the machine learning ecosystem simply moves too fast. Every day there's a new state-of-the-art model, a new protocol, a new everything. Second, governance and compliance. You don't know who is using what. This leads to a massive compliance concerns and risks. Third, security. Traditional security tools usually fail to understand a model true risk profile. They're simply not adapt to it yet. And new audiences. Data scientists need to work in their own world, in their own domain, but their work must integrate into the trusted secure world of DevOps. And we are here today to show you how the JFrog platform is turning every one of those red lights green. So this is why I'm really excited here to introduce our latest innovation designed to solve these exact problems, the JFrog AI Catalog. And of course, the AI Catalog is fully available for you to deploy and use today if you're a JFrog customer, whether you're running a self-hosted environment or in the cloud. So the JFrog AI Catalog is built on 3 essential pillars. First, discovery. Discovery is about providing complete visibility into every model and AI component in your organization. Second, governance. Governance allows you to enforce security, compliance, and access policies, ensuring that only curated, trusted models ever reach your environment. And third, serving. Provides a secure one-click pathway to deploy and monitor your trusted machine learning models into your environment of choice. Let's start with discovery, first pillar. And discovery isn't just about finding the models that your company wants to use. It's about seeing everything that is in play. Let me explain what that means. But I'll explain what that means, but I want to start with what you actually want to use, the unified AI catalog. This is the single source of truth for all your trusted AI components. It centrally manages three sources, public, or as we call them, external API providers, internal, basically your own custom models, and open source, Hugging Face models. It allows you to search and discover the latest of greatest of the AI ecosystems and provides rich model details and model cards with important enrichments like the model security posture, and we'll see that. But the reality of fast-moving AI adoptions means that you're certainly using things that you simply don't know about. And this is the risk of shadow AI. When we announced this specific capability a few months ago, it was still being finalized. And today, I really want to share with you that it's here. Shadow AI detection is available in beta for AI catalog customers, for AI JFrog ML catalog customers, and we encourage you all to start using it. So our platform actively scans your artifacts, containers, packages, and code to automatically discover and expose 2 things. One, model usage. Identifies unapproved open source models that are being pulled into your organization. Second, external API calls. It detects direct, unmanaged calls outside of AI services. Okay? And by bringing shadow AI out of the darkness and into your visibility, basically give you the foundation to make a choice. Do you block AI models, move them, and bring them under your governance? You can't really secure what you can't see. And the first part of the demo that I would like to show you will focus on discovery, specifically how you can use the AI catalog to get a unified view of the models you want to use and quickly identify the models that are currently being used in your organization without your knowledge. So let's jump into the demo. So here we're seeing the Discovery tab. And the Discovery tab, as I said before, is comprised of three different sections. One, external models, basically model endpoints used by external integration providers. This is a very common use cases for a lot of the companies. You're using a mixture of models, using external models like OpenAI, face models, okay, models that are coming from the community. And you're also using custom models. So this is custom models, meaning built-in models that you built in-house, sentiment analysis or some fine-tuned models. Okay, so getting a unified view of all the models that are currently that you can use in your organization. So let's see the anatomy of a model. So we're going to go into one of the anthropic models, for example. Here you can see Anthropic, the Cloud Sonnet 4.5. It's an external model. These are the chats. These are the tasks that is relevant for him. You can see the context length. When was the release date? An important thing like API terms. The same details and more you can actually also see on package models. Okay, let's, for example, look at this Microsoft model. You can see here the model card. This is the model card as pulled in from Hugging Face. And in the middle, you see the details that we augment. First and foremost, security posture. We know that this model, we scanned it, okay, using our security capabilities, and it's not a malicious model. Okay. Now let's search for a model, okay, that we know is malicious. For example, must ER VGG 16 Lite. Yes. So this is an example model. This is for security research only, but this model is not in our organization. It's not in our registry. I'll show you that in a second. But we know that this model is malicious. So right now we saw what you want to use, the discovery, search, a glimpse of the discovery and search capability. Much more. But let's look at the detection. Okay, so now here we want to move to detection. So here you can see the models that are currently in your organization, whether you know them or not. So here you can see we have the same VGG 16 model, the same malicious Docker repository, hiding in a Docker artifact. It's not just some model that you pulled in. It's not even listed. It might not be even listed in the source code. Okay, we scan the binary artifact. This binary artifact contains a malicious model. It was not specifically declared, not necessarily specifically declared as a dependency. Basically give you the power to see what's going on in your organization. We detected several model types in your organization at the moment. You have Mistral, you have a Microsoft V3 Mini, okay, and you have a malicious model that is question if you want to start governing and trusting your machine learning models that are running through your organization. Let's go back to the deck. So we've seen discovery. Now comes the hard part. If discovery gives you sight, understanding what's in play, governance gives you control. First, we enable true curation for AI models. You set policies to vet and approve models from any source, internal and external alike, before they are even accessible to your teams. We block the unvetted and approve the safe, or actually you block the unvetted and approve the safe. Secondly, we provide fine-grained access control. We allow you to define exactly who can access which model using a very important construct called the JFrog project. The JFrog project allows for clear isolation and access control. That means that a data scientist working on project A, okay, or specifically a software engineer working on from a project being used by data scientists, okay, from a research or a development project used by data scientists. And finally, this governance frameworks integrate seamlessly with the rest of the JFrog platform compliance, licensing, and security policies, security posture in general across your entire software supply chain. Let's see that, how you can actually govern the model using the JFrog registry. Okay. So in the registry, we see that we have 15 allowed models of different types. We have here the sentiment analysis model. We have the Meta Llama model installed. Okay, we have the Microsoft V3. Okay, so we have a few models from different types that are currently in my organization. The registry is the source of truth for the models that are being used internally and approved and being used internally in your organization. Okay, so let's see how you can actually add them. So we go to discovery. Now I want to add this specific model. Okay, let's say an NVIDIA one. So what I need to do, I see that it's not a malicious model, license seem okay, number of downloads okay, not that much, but it's an NVIDIA model. I can trust. I know that I can trust NVIDIA. I want to allow this project. And I'm not just allowing this project. I'm allowing this model in a specific project. I want to allow it only for development purposes. Okay, it's a research project, doesn't have a lot of users. Let's start playing around with it. And I simply can allow this model. Now this model is allowed and used in my and can be seen in my registry. And actually, I'll be able to see it only in my development project that I've added it to. Okay. Same thing goes for external models. If I want to add Anthropic, for example, same process, a bit of a difference. So one with a small difference. One, I'm going to add it to the development. And second, I need to create a connection. Okay, I'm creating a specific connection into Anthropic, okay, as a secret. And this connection will be basically embedded in the external models. And then I can use my JFrog tokens in order to connect to my model. I'll show you a glimpse of that in the serving section. How does that look like? Okay. So the process of adding model under your governance is very simple. You can simply manually allow and block models. Now, this is only a glimpse. You can correlate them with your existing curation policy. If you're a JFrog curation customer, you can block models categorically. You can allow models categorically based on certain policies, but you can also handpick which models are being used in your organization, like many organizations do. This is an important step, again, in trusting your AI workflows. Let's go back to the deck. And last, but definitely not least, serving. So serving, the serve pillar delivers 3 key operational values for both speed and security. First, one-click deployment. Once a model is approved in the catalog, developers can deploy it to their environment of choice, basically eliminating manual configurations and the speed bumps that typically bottleneck these types of production processes. Second, we securely serve external models using a very important notion called the AI gateway. When your application needs to call an external API, the gateway itself manages the credentials and proxies the call securely. And third, we provide integrated monitoring. You get crucial visibility and auditing into the usage patterns of both your custom-built models and any open source or external machine learning models alike. So let's see a demo of serving models. Okay. So here you can see the current models in my registry. And I can see that I have ChatGPT 5 Nano, for example, which is allowed. This model is allowed in my research project. And here I can see the different metrics that I have. So this model is currently accepting traffic. This is the average throughput, median time to first token, okay, throughput over time, and time to first token over time, getting a monitoring of how calls to this API gateway look like. The model, GPT-5 Nano, is behind an API gateway, the JFrog AI gateway. How to actually use this model. Okay, so here you can see an example, a Python example, okay? And the major point here is that you can use the OpenAI. It's an OpenAI compatible API with one significant difference. You're calling our URL instead of say OpenAI, and you're using the JFrog API key. The JFrog API key that is tied to your permissions and your projects. And so if you allowed OpenAI for one mini, this specific model, you will only be able to use it if you have permissions to this specific projects. Okay, we're tying it into the JFrog projects in general, but the JFrog access control, role-based access control in general, which allows you a much more fine-grained control of who is using your external models and how. And for open source models, it's a bit different, but still carries a lot of the same values. Okay, so you can use here, I have a MetaLlama. You can deploy this model, okay, on GPUs. For example, choose the number of replicas, soon to be have auto-scaling capabilities. And again, same thing. You can use which project, you can choose which projects do you like. Project that you like. And you can use this model in another similar way to what you're using today. We also have a Python SDK once the model is deployed. You can also pull it directly using a Hugging Face SDK in the same way that you are very much familiar with. Okay, and again, if you don't have permissions to pull the models, if you're using your JFrog API key and you don't have permissions to this specific project, this call will fail. You won't be able to call, to download the Hugging Face model from the AI catalog. So this is a glimpse of actually serve models with an important concept of the AI gateway, deploy open source models as well. Okay, so everything that you've seen today in the JFrog AI catalog is available for you to use and adopt, but we're not stopping there. And I want to share, again, a glimpse of what's coming next in the pipeline. The tools that your developers are using, GitHub, Copilot, Cursor, are currently a bit like a wild horse. They reach out directly to dozens of external model providers. And this creates a massive uncontrolled mess of MCP's model context protocol calls. And we listen to you. You need to control this mess. You need to govern the agents that build your software. And this is not just a messy problem. It's a critical security problem, introducing new attack vectors like command injection and tool poisoning. And you need to control this mess. You need to govern the agents that build your software. It's a critical security problem. Without the notion of curation, your developers are basically one accidental download away from malicious, vulnerable, or dangerous MCPs being installed. So the next feature, what we have next in the pipeline, is significant expansion that addresses these critical areas. Okay? We're going to introduce the MCP and MCP registry, trusted, secured MCP registry coming in Q1. This will ensure that the entire ecosystem, from the models to the agents that consume them, all live within one central governed platform. So how does that work, the MCP register? Today, when a developer uses an AI agent in their GitHub Copilot or Cursor, that agent is often calling out directly to external models or context server. And that is actually another security blind spot, another source of shadow AI. And the MCP registry solves this by inserting itself as a trusted layer, trusted mediator. It acts as a secured, trusted source, proxying those external calls and providing a curated, governed list of models and tools that the agent is allowed to use. So this ensures that every interaction an AI agent has, whether it's looking up code context or pulling in a new model, is routed through your security and compliance policies. So let's take a quick breath and recap the AI catalog, your end-to-end strategy for secure enterprise-scale AI adoption, built on 3 pillars. First, discovery. Discovery gives you complete visibility, unifying your approved model catalog while automatically exposing all the hidden risks of shadow AI usage across your organization. Second, governance. Governance enforce fine-grained policies and curation across every model source and every team project, ensuring that only trusted components are allowed into your SDLC, software development lifecycle. And serving, we provide secure one-click path to runtime, managing the entire model lifecycle using the AI gateway to enforce trust right up to the inference core. And we started the conversation by looking at the red lights of AI growth, challenges that slowed you down and leave you exposed to risks. And our goal is for you to be able to catch up with the pace of innovation using the latest and greatest AI tools, which you entirely control and govern. We want you to use them securely, knowing that they are vetted and ensure that they are available for all new audiences inside or across your organization. And for these reasons, to solve the pain that you shared with us, to help you move faster, safer, and with complete control, we listened and built the JFrog AI catalog. Our vision is clear. The JFrog AI catalog is the single source of truth for all trusted AI components in your organization. And as I said before, it's not a future vision. It's available for you to use today if you're a JFrog customer. So thank you very much. And please note that we have published the names of the winners of the raffle in the chat. Okay. So thank you again. Have a great day. Thank you.